everyone, Katarina here. Welcome back. In this video, I'm pencil coloring again. This time I'm using the Prisma pencils from Premiere. If you haven't seen my last video, in this video I used the Faber-Castell's Polychromos. I will leave the link to this video in the description below as well as at the end of the video in case you want to check it out. As I mentioned in that video, I'm still at the beginner level. And if you have any suggestion how I could improve my coloring, let me know in the comments below. For this project, I picked this beautiful stamp set from Clearly Besotted with these beautiful roses. This was actually my Mother's Day card, but I knew that I will not manage to release this video on time, so I decided to stick with the sentiments that are in the stamp set and make a thank you card, but I will show you the Mother's Day card I made at the end of the video. I used the Mini Missy stamping tool to stamp the flower. I stamped it on a Bristol cardstock from Canson, and I used the Versafine ink in Onyx black. And because I didn't want to waste the cardstock, I stamped 2 of the images. I will be cutting them out later anyway, and I can make additional cards some other time. You can also buy separate die for this stamp set, but I don't have it. After I was done with stamping, I started coloring. I picked 3 shades of red colors and 3 shades of green. I started with the red colors. In my previous video, I was talking about my technique, if you even can call it a technique. I was saying that I don't do any shading, and what I mean by that is picking up a light source, not picking different shades of color, because obviously I did that. Using a light source and creating shades from the light source is really difficult for me. It's already in the section of coloring where you are trying to be realistic, and my skills are far away from that. That's why I prefer to color flowers. They are more forgiving. I usually stamp 1 focal image, and therefore picking a light source is not super important. At least that's what I think. All I try to do is to create a dimension by using multiple shades of the same color, so the image is not flat. And all I do is either I start off with a lighter shade of the color and apply it over the whole petal or leaf, or I directly go with the darkest shade and I apply it at the bottom of the petal. Then I bring in the middle shade of the color and then the lightest shade of the color. Sometimes I just don't use the middle shade, I go directly with the lightest shade. It just depends on what I feel is right. Then I go back with the colors of each shade and blend until I'm happy with the results. With Prismas, my problem is that they chip off quite often. Not sure if it's super visible in the video, especially the darkest red. I'm not sure if I dropped it. I tried to sharpen it down, but it didn't help. It was chipping like crazy, but the other colors were chipping off as well. That's actually one thing I don't like about the Prismas. I constantly had to use my brush to brush it off so I don't smudge it, and then you ruin your project. Happened to me before, luckily not on this card. Also, I had to sharpen them all the time. It's a little bit annoying. The Faber-Castells didn't need sharpening all the time. The Prismas are a little bit higher maintenance, I think. Anyways, I will speed up the video a little bit more and play some music and be back once I'm done with all the coloring, and I will show you how I finish the card. coloring is done. I think it looks quite nice. I also really like the colors of the leaves. Off camera, I already fussy cut the rose. It took me a few minutes, that's why I didn't film it because I think it's a little bit boring. To finish up the card, I decided to create a panel that I die cut using a stitch rectangular die. Then I stamped the 2 roses that are in the stamp set to create a simple black and white background. If you have a background stamp that fits, you can use that. For example, MFT has a background stamp with roses. I stamped it once, flipped it, and then stamped it second time. Again, I used the Versafine ink in Onyx Black. Then I started working on the sentiment. I used a Kraft cardstock and stamped the sentiment "Thanks a Million." And again, I stamped it using the Versafine ink. And of course, I stamped it twice, so the color is really dark. I used my paper trimmer and trimmed down the sentiment to create a banner. And in addition, I trimmed down a black cardstock to put it behind the banner with the sentiment. I cut off the right side of both banners at an angle and then adhered them together. I think the black cardstock helps the sentiment to pop up a little bit more. To adhere it, I first made sure I left enough space for the stem of the rose at the bottom. And then I used a foam adhesive on the banner with the sentiment as well as on the rose. And also I adhered a fun foam on the back of the black and white panel. And then I started adhering everything together. I adhered the rose on top of the black and white panel. Then I adhered the sentiment. And then I attached the whole panel on top of a dark red heavyweight card base. And lastly, I wanted to bring a little bit of sparkle to the card. I thought about using sequins, but then I fished out these sparkly enamel dots I had in my stash. I thought it was perfect for this card, and I adhered 3 of them on top of the card, tucking them a bit behind the cutout images. So this finishes the card. I really like the result. I think I did quite a good job with the coloring. I mean, for a beginner. As I mentioned at the beginning, I also made a Mother's Day card. All I did here, I swapped the sentiment. You can do this on any card. You definitely don't need to go with the sentiment that the card maker uses. You can choose your own sentiment. Also for the Mother's Day card, I used different shade of the red cardstock for the card base. This is all for this video. Hope you like this card. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any of my future videos. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest, and also visit my blog cherry-b.net, where you can find more information and photos of the cards. All the links as well as the list of the supplies you can find in the description below this video. Just click on the Show More button, or if you are watching on my blog, just scroll a little bit down. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!